This is the 2021 Lexus RC350 Luxury. It's Lexus's answer to the likes of the BMW 4 Series, the Mercedes C-Class, and the Audi A5. Now, I'm going to tell you why you should be considering one of these over those German alternatives. In this review, I'm going to be walking around the outside and the inside of the car, telling you everything you need to know, and then we'll be taking for a drive in places you're most likely going to find this out and about. So, my name's Cameron, you're watching Product Review Cars, let's get on with it. And before I continue any further, make sure you're subscribed, leave a like, and of course, hit that notification bell. It certainly helps us know that you want to see more of these reviews, and of course, I love seeing new faces, so I hope you like seeing mine. I think Lexus have absolutely nailed the design for the 2021 RC. Finally, it's a car that you look back on and go, that is a good looking car. You're not umming and ahhing because they've taken elements from the LC500 luxury flagship sports coupe and they put it into the RC, making it look a whole lot better. Let's start with the giant front spindle grille, which is, yes, polarizing, but here it is distinct and it's how you do a big grille. Take note, BMW. Here we have a headlight cluster with a nice smooth LED, which looks great at any time. And there's some bright work up the front, which in 2021 is rare to see some bright chrome like this because everything's being matte blacked or blacked out. So I appreciate this. It complements this celestial blue paint here very nicely. And whoever spec'd this at Lexus, you deserve a pay bump because this is how you spec one of these sports coupes. Loud, proud, and it just looks good to look back on. Here we have large 18-inch alloy wheels, which are silver, and they complement this paint again really nice. You have some side mirrors here which are almost a tri-tone because you've got black on top, chrome through the middle, and then the body color underneath. And they're also set back. Take note how it's set back from the front of the door and the A-pillar just a little bit more, giving that swept back look to the car, where other cars like Mercedes, for example, put the mirrors right here where you would normally expect them. So it looks kind of cool and almost like a design piece sticking out from the car. These pillars here are really cool because you can see the joining line, but you don't see another joining line back here. Instead, it's one piece of bodywork that runs from the front to the back, just giving it more of a streamlined look. I really love the look of the RC. Large side doors, which look like they're almost ripped from the LC500 because those have massive doors, gives you a nice sense of space when you get in and also looks quite nice and luxurious having large doors like that. Moving to the back, and this is where the bodywork tapers off really nicely here. Lines are continued very well and it just is a good looking back end of a car, and I sincerely mean that here. And this is the RC350 with the V6, so let's hear what that sounds like on the outside. So unlike many of the cars we've been testing here at Product Review Cars, the Lexus RC has a proper trunk, which you can open just by pressing on the back, and it opens up automatically, which you can also do from the key or inside the car. You have 374 liters of cargo space, which is very generous for a couple of golf bags. You can also fold the seats down in a 60-40 split, even though this is a four-seater, one side is still bigger than the other. Now in the back, because this is a Lexus, we have some luxury appointments, don't we? So we have a medical safety kit, which looks very safe just by looking at it. And then you've also got a leather bag which contains the warning triangle and a thing called the valet pack. So if you're wondering what the valet pack is, like I was, I know what's in a medical kit. In here we have a Lexus mat for your knees so you don't get all dirty when you need to get down on the ground. Very thoughtful, and I sort of want to use that as my doormat. Looks very nice. And then you've got some Lexus gloves to make sure your hands don't get dirty. You've got some Lexus wipes in here, and then of course you've got the Lexus branded warning triangle, all very nice. And yes, underneath the boot floor there is a spare tire with all the tools you need to change a tire. Lexus interiors are something else. It's the level of attention to detail, the materials they use, and the way you interact with it, which just makes it that much more appealing than some other generic feeling interiors. In here you have a 10.3-inch full color display, which has good colors, good contrast, good brightness, and is just a very nice display to look at, but it's set all the way up in the dash. And so the way you interact with it, like you do with your laptop, is by using a trackpad, which has haptic feedback. It houses all your regular information that you would expect to find in here, like navigation, media, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. However, you just interact with it using this touchpad. Some people love this, some people hate it. I personally love using it this way because it just is a more ergonomic way of using a touchscreen in a modern car. Below that, you have an actual analog clock, which is cool to see in a car in 2021. It looks really nice, and I really appreciate that being there. Adds a bit more class in the interior in here. Below that, you have dual zone climate controls, and you slide your finger on these metallic little strips to change the temperature, which is kind of funny and just a different way of interacting, but it sort of makes sense of how that works, and it doesn't require any ugly dials or buttons. Keeps the interior looking clean. Below that, we have a CD player. Yes, a CD player for all your CD playing needs in 2021. Below that, controls for heated and cooled seats. You have drive modes next to the shifter, some cup holders. In the glove box, we have 2 USBs, an auxiliary port, and also a 12-volt socket. In front of me, I have analog gauges, easy to read, smooth in the operation. And in the middle, you have a digital display, which houses all your different information about your car, except a digital speedometer. So if that's something that irks you a little bit, that's missing from this instrument cluster. You need to go to the F Sport to get the LFA inspired instruments, which yes, does have that digital speedometer. This steering wheel is sporty, yet it's not overly aggressive. And these paddles on the back, I like the little flicks on the top, which have the minus and positive little indicators for your gear shifts. It is just a nice set of paddles here. They're not cheap plastic ones. And then everything else in here is just so nicely done. The leather, obviously these seats, which hug me in quite nice. This is a sports coupe, so it has heavy bolstering on the side. And yes, they're electronically adjustable on both sides, but the bolstering isn't. So if that's something that annoys you by having a bit more bolstering in your seat, these seats might be a bit too grippy, but for me, I love that extra support in a car like this. Everything else, like the way you interact with the buttons, the materials on the headliner, which feels a bit like a set of leggings or felt. It is just a really nicely packaged interior. Now the back seats are a different story to the front ones, not because of the materials they use. Everything else in here is very nice, even the ISOFIX points for your child seats and the actual comfort of these seats. However, someone who's 5'11", I rarely have issues of getting in the back seats of cars unless it's cars like this. This is like a 2+2 configuration rather than being a true 4-seater. In here, my headroom is all gone. I don't have any, and if I want to set up any straighter than this, I won't have a head inside this car any longer. I'll be pushing through the roof. You have some nice felt material carrying towards the back, which is this headliner. It's super soft, but I can see why they've used it. It's probably for the rear passengers, because when you hit your head against this, it can be a bit hard underneath that. Now, arm room's okay. I've got plenty of space, got a little window out here, but as soon as I put this seat back, which automatically rolls back, which is quite nice, all you have to do is just tilt it forwards and backwards, I'm quickly losing every part of my leg room, including my feet, my knees, and just everything in between. I am not feeling very comfortable back here at all, and the front people aren't going to either, because they're going to have to make concessions for adults sitting in the back. This is really just for kids or anyone like that, or any small people to sit for smaller journeys. I don't really see this for being a great solution to get rid of your 4-door, 4-seater car. So Lexus offers a 4-year, 100,000 kilometer warranty, and that's a funny one in the way that it sits in between the 3-year guys and the 5 to 7-year guys. So just something to note that it's an in-between warranty. It may push you more towards a Lexus for that extra year of coverage compared to some European brands. So the Lexus RC350 makes do with a 3.5 litre naturally aspirated V6. It's petrol powered, and it produces 232 kilowatts and 380 newton meters of torque at its peak, which is pretty decent figures for a car like this. Now, this is rear wheel drive, and it's got an 8-speed automatic. So that means we're going to put it in manual mode. This is a torque converter automatic. It's not a dual clutch, but it is a very smooth gearbox. Right now, I'm in normal mode, and normal mode simply soaks up the bumps, loosens up the steering, and just makes this a very relaxing car. Now, I'm here to test out the Sports and Sports Plus mode. So I'm gonna knock this into Sport, and immediately my dash goes red, and I get the Sports S notification on my dashboard. And here, is when you have a funny issue where you're gonna get fake noise coming into the cabin. And that's something that Lexus likes to say is for enhancing the driver experience. But in my opinion, I really just like how the engine sounds without it. You get really good induction sound like this, but then you get that sort of almost trombone-like V6 sound being amplified through the cabin, which all of it isn't real. Part of sports mode is that you stiffen up the steering in here. It becomes a bit more direct, and steering does too. But then that's not all. Head into Sports Plus mode, and now we're talking. We're gonna get the most responsive engine, the most responsive suspension, steering, and gearbox. Now, Sports Plus is best enjoyed with the manual transmission activated, so you can get up in the rev range a little bit. Now, the Lexus RC is meant to be the more sporty Lexus that you can buy from the luxury car manufacturer. Which means this V6 isn't just any V6 from Toyota. This one has a bit more flavor to it. Here it feels a lot like a Nissan GTR in terms of how it sounds, but obviously without the turbos. So you're getting a traditional V6 experience in here. Sure, there's not a ton of torque like you would get out of a turbocharged motor or say a V8, but instead what we have here is just the beauty of a naturally aspirated engine. That means intake noise, exhaust noise, and responsiveness in the throttle. And as you go higher up, of course, the more power you're going to get from this thing, which means you can hold the revs, pin it, and you're going to get great sounds. Even though this is the V6, I'm having a ton of fun in here. And the driving dynamics are really good too. It's rear-wheel drive, and that means that in Sports Plus, you're going to get a bit more play in the car. And it just means that the rear wheels aren't going to stick as hard as they will in normal mode. You can turn off traction control in here. The steering feel is pretty good. It is a little bit numb, but it's not the end of the world. It's only numb by a small margin. It's got plenty of feel once you tighten it up and start heading through corners. I could see this being a pretty fun track car, just because it's got enough power for you to be playful with it, but not enough to put you in trouble like that 5-liter V8 would. Here it's just an absolute treat to drive, and yes, the RC350 is a very fun car to drive when you want it to be. Now, should you buy a 2021 Lexus RC350 over its competitors? Well, I say yes, because Lexus is killing it right now. They are the ones creating the really special interiors with attention to detail, even down to the small memory seat buttons. The styling has been nailed on this generation of RC, and then what you're getting is a really unique engine and body and drivetrain setup. The large displacement petrol naturally aspirated V6 paired up to a rear-wheel drive drivetrain in a body like this with an interior like that. This is a car that you don't really want to miss out on if you're shopping in this segment. I think Lexus have nailed it for the RC. However, if you're looking for a lot more power, because the V6 isn't satisfying that for you, definitely check out the 5-liter V8 in any of Lexus products. In this, it'd be the RCF and the RCF Track Edition, and I'm desperate to try that out because I've just heard more than good things in the going extinct naturally aspirated V8 motor, which is one of the last ones you can buy. But in terms of a naturally aspirated motor, this is also one of the last ones you can buy, because you're not seeing these big displacement V6s in many other cars like this. Now, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see me off-road a new Land Rover Defender, you can hit on that video there. If you want to see the sounds of a V8 coming from a Porsche Cayenne GTS Coupe, you can see me in that video up here. Either or, I'll see you there.